Okay, so we've been doing some equations, and we've been doing one-step equations. So now we're going to move on. We're going to do two-step equations. Now with two-step equations, obviously it's two steps because there's two things we need to get rid of. We need to remember when we're solving equations, we're always trying to get the variable by itself. Well, in order to do that, I'd have to get rid of the 3 and the 5. And so the question then becomes, well, which one do I want to get rid of first? And that the way we're going to think about this is we're going to say, okay, I actually have my answer to the problem. I'm trying to go back and figure out what I started with. So that tells me that I need to be working backwards. That's the reason that in the one-step equations we always did the opposite. Okay? And so if I have more than one operation, anytime I have more than one operation, I always think about using the order of operations. And we'd done this earlier in the year. We used hopscotch to remember our order of operations. And it went grouping symbols, and then exponents, and then multiply and divide from left to right, and add and subtract from left to right. But if we're working backwards, we're trying to get back to where we started, then we should follow the order of operations backwards. So in other words, when we're trying to solve an equation and undo this stuff, we're going to undo any adding and subtracting first, then any multiplying or dividing. We're going to undo exponents next, and the last thing we're going to undo is grouping symbols. So I'm going to start on this one by getting rid of the adding. Now again, I'm going to put my line here because just like on the last 2 days, whatever I do on one side, I'm going to do on the other. But I'm going to get rid of adding and subtracting first. I'm going to get rid of the adding by subtracting. 5 minus 5 is 0. That leaves me with 3x. 26 minus 5 is 21. Now I have multiplying to get rid of, so I'm going to do the opposite, which is divide. I'll divide both sides by 3. On the left side, I get x, and on the right side, 21 divided by 3 is 7. And so it's basically the same thing I did yesterday. I just have to do 2 of what I did, an adding, subtracting, and a multiplying and dividing equation. Of course, at the end, I do need to go back and check. And so again, I'm going to plug this 7 in for x in the original equation. So I'm going to do 3 times 7 plus 5. Now 3 times 7 is 21. Plus 5 is going to give me 26. That's what I wanted, so I know that my answer is right. Okay, so let's look at another one. Now this one's got subtraction in it. I have subtraction and multiplication. So I'm going to get rid of the subtraction first by doing the opposite, or adding. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Again, negative 7 plus 7 is 0. So I have 4x left. And 29 plus 7 is 36. Now I have multiplication. So to get rid of this, I need to divide. I'm going to divide both sides by a 4. That leaves me with my x on that side. And 36 divided by 4 is 9. So the same thing, just following the order of operations backwards. So get rid of adding and subtracting first, then multiplying or dividing. Now I'm going to check. I'm going to do 4 times 9 minus 7. I know 4 times 9 is 36. I'm going to do 36 minus 7. I get 29. That is what I wanted to get. So I know my answer of x equals 9 has to be right. And I got one more to show you with a division in here. Now again, I have division and adding, so I'm still going to get rid of the adding first. So to get rid of adding, I'm going to need to subtract. So I'm going to subtract on both sides. So on the left side, the 10 minus 10 is 0. So I have c over 2 left. Now on the right side, I have negatives here. -5 minus 10. I can add a line, change the sign, and I'm going to get -15 because when I add two negatives, it's negative, and I add them up. Now I just have division, which means I need to do the opposite or multiply. Remember, I show that by putting the number in parentheses. That gets rid of my 2, leaves me with c, and -15 times a positive 2 is a -30. So again, with this one, it's the same, but I just need to be careful with my signs because I have the negatives involved. And I have to be careful with them when I'm doing my check as well. So I plug my -30 in, and I have -30 divided by 2 plus 10. And I know when I divide a negative and a positive, I get a negative. 30 divided by 2 is 15. I add 10 to that. -15 plus 10 is a -5 because when I am adding with different signs, I take the sign of the bigger one and I subtract them. -5 is what I wanted, so I know my answer is right and I'm all set. So again, it's just like the other day. You just have to do that twice. We still do the opposite operation on both sides, but you got to remember to follow the order of operations backwards.